As one of the world's biggest football clubs, Manchester United, effectively up for sale 17 years after the Glazer family took control. The controversial American owners say they are exploring strategic alternatives to help the club, including selling it off. Fans have welcomed the news.
Now, this obviously comes just hours after Cristiano Ronaldo's contract was dramatically cancelled by the club. And obviously, as we said, that followed last week's highly critical interview where he attacked United's manager, he attacked the owners, he attacked just about anybody connected with the club. Jonathan Swain is at the World Cup in Doha, where Ronaldo is currently preparing for Portugal's first match tomorrow against Ghana. Jonathan, we understand, we've already said this on the show, that he's not going to receive a red cent in any compensation from United. They're just kicking him out.
No, he's not. And everybody you speak to out here, it's obviously a big talking point out here in Qatar. They say that Cristiano Ronaldo knew exactly what he was doing when he gave this interview, knew exactly what the consequences of it were going to be. Now, he is out here training with Portugal at the moment, but when he's back home with United, he's reportedly on something like £500,000 a week. So potentially between now and the end of his contract, end of the season, he's going to lose something like £17 million. Clearly, that's not of interest to him. He won't be returning back to Manchester United when he leaves the World Cup here in the Middle East. But there's already a lot of interest in the superstar player from other clubs, as you'd expect this morning. So him leaving the club, fans we've spoken to have divided opinions on whether he should go or shouldn't go. What they're not divided on, though, is news that actually the Glazers are going to potentially sell Manchester United. They have never liked the owners since they bought the club back in 2005. And even Ronaldo, in that interview, was talking about how those owners are only interested in money.
It's almost 2 decades since the Glazer family took control of one of the world's most famous football clubs, and it could soon come to an end. In recent years, the ownership has been embroiled by fan protests and declining on-pitch performance. A club statement confirms the American owners are now considering selling in full or at least partially. It came just hours after Cristiano Ronaldo's exit was dramatically announced, following a critical interview where he accused the club of failing to make enough progression.
Since the Sir Alex Ferguson left, I saw not evolution in the club. They stopped in a time which it surprised me a lot.
It's reported the Portuguese star will leave without taking a penny in compensation between now and June, saving United around £17 million. His exit, though, has divided supporters.
He's got such a legendary status within the club, but I feel like he may have tarnished his legacy a little bit.
Promises weren't kept, and naturally, if that happens to anybody, you're going to feel a type of way.
The investment into
billionaires across the globe are now being linked with bids, as are sovereign investors like those who launched takeovers of clubs such as Newcastle United.
There's a number of potential ownership areas. There could be some from the Middle East or from Asia. Alternatively, if the club is going to be taken over by American investors, that's more likely to be perhaps private equity or a consortium based.
For this iconic club and its fans, change has been a long time coming. Its superstar has gone from the pitch, and a boardroom shake-up will hopefully improve performance and its reputation, both on and off the pitch.
We'll just give you an update on the England team, shall we? Harry Kane, as you know, went off in the second half against Iran on Monday. We understand from the team out here that Kane is going to go for a scan on his ankle later on today, although Gareth Southgate says he's pretty positive, though, that the England captain will be able to start against the United States on Friday.
I mean, no surprise that Ronaldo's been kicked off the pitch, is there?
No,
is it coming down? It's like a train down the tracks.
Yeah, it read and sounded and looked as if he wanted out. Yeah. And he goes out without paying compensation at Manchester United. They don't pay him, 16 million deal, off he can go. But I am pleased, though, that for once a player has spoken out about how they really feel, because so many times we're told as football fans that a player isn't fit or they're ill when you just know they're unhappy in a big dispute with the manager and the club.
I think, look, it is an explosive interview. I think it's no surprise to anyone that it's come to this end. I expect some people might be asking, though, wasn't this a conversation that he should have been having within Manchester United?
Yeah, arguably. I could see that point, and some of his teammates will agree with that, but maybe he was having those conversations and it wasn't getting anywhere, or maybe he knew that the only way he would be freed from his contract is if he went thermonuclear in public.
Why do you think this would have happened? Why would a player of his calibre and held in such reverence by the fans, why would this go wrong at this stage in his career?
I don't know anything about it, but I just think he's he's an overindulged, overpaid, egocentric footballer.
Well,
and there's a lot of them.
And you know what, Andrew? I think a lot of people will probably share that view.
What I like, though, is you say, I don't know anything about it, and then you still give a view.
Well, because that's what I think. Having read it from afar, I haven't read the detail.
But it's a perfectly reasonable view, isn't it, from anybody who's not a Ronaldo fan?
Yeah. Look, I'm not...
You know, these people are paid eye-watering amounts of money.
I agree.
And there will be people thinking, you know, this is not the way to act when you are being paid, compensated that much money weekly by the biggest financial club in the world.
I'm not shedding any tears for him, but it's how he's done it. And at least there's some honesty here. And he said he's unhappy, instead of, again, as a football fan, you know, suddenly he can come and play for us. I can see why he can't get in the Manchester United team there.
He can't get
in the top team.
He's
a fantastic player, but he's past his best. There's a new manager coming in and he's got a different way of playing.
He's 37, isn't he?
Yeah.
Do you think he's past his best? Because he's still knocking the back of the net.
Would Spurs have him, Sean?
No, I don't think we would, because you play as a team, and no one player is bigger than the club. And when he speaks out like that, he has to go. I mean, he's bringing down the club.
So it's his attitude rather than his playing ability.
So, of course, he is a really, really good player.
Still a good player at 37.
But teams play as teams, and say United, they might be doing the high press, so they all have to do the same thing. And if one guy's just saying, well, I'm not going to run because I'm bigger than the team, it doesn't work.
You think he's finished?
So United played Aston. Well, it's not finished. He'll go and play somewhere and earn lots of money. But for a big club in the Premier League, you have to listen to the manager. And it's so important. So United played Aston Villa in the league, and they played Fulham in the league, and he was in the team against Aston Villa. They lost. It's not all his fault, of course, but then they played Fulham, and I know they came back, and you know it was a great win in the end. And they could have lost that game, but they won it. And I think that's the important thing. The team won it with young players. In that interview, he said things like, the young players aren't learning from me. I think that's kind of weird. Imagine if you're a young player on that pitch with one of the greatest players of all time, Ronaldo, and you pass the ball and it goes wrong, and he goes, oh, why did you do that? Think of the pressure on your shoulders, thinking about Ronaldo watching you. I guess those players will be thinking, I'm quite pleased he's gone.
Can we just... high pressing means you run around a lot and go at the opposition. Look, it's not squeezing lemons for a fruit-based drink or anything like that.
There's a very nice team in League Division 2. They're 7th place, Swindon Town. They'd be delighted to have Ronaldo.
There we go.
They'd be delighted. I don't think they can afford him. Probably one game, probably.
You as a Crystal Palace fan, you know the importance of football in many people's lives in areas. And Ronaldo also uttered some truths which will chime with Manchester United fans about the training facilities haven't been improved.
He's not a proper team player. What are you defending him for? Why are you defending him?
And the Glazers have been terrible American owners because they have squeezed that club to get as much money out, and now it may be up for sale.
Hang on, let me make another rare contribution about football. He's part of a team.
Listen, all your contributions about football are perfectly valid, Andrew.
Yeah, they're as valid as everything else you say. You said you know nothing about football.
He's part of a team, so he should be a team player, and he's not operating as a team player.
Joining us now, Manchester United's official poet, our kid, David Scott. Now, I mentioned just before we went to the local news, if this is the end, then any thank you is to those that have been protesting for 17 years. What has been your problem with the Glazers, David? Morning.
When they came to Old Trafford and took over the club, there was protests before they actually managed to get the deal over the line. Manchester United fans have never wanted the Glazers to be in charge. Fans have been vocal ever since they took over that their pursuit was never to progress Manchester United as being the dominant force in football, as they were and were known the world over. Their pursuit was just purely for financial gain, and I think that how Manchester United have declined over the last nearly 2 decades is just typifies everything that the United fans have been worried about and has happened.
Well, they basically mortgaged the club pretty much straight away, didn't they? They sort of basically, in a sense, took all the money out of it.
Yeah, it's absolutely disgusting. I mean, I think that the FA wants the Glazers, if this is true that they're going to leave, the FA owe Manchester United fans a massive apology because this deal should never, ever have been able to get over the line. Manchester, it's become an embarrassment, not only for the fans of Manchester United, but for British football in general. We were the biggest team in the world, winning European trophies and stuff, and how we fell off a cliff edge is just completely embarrassing.
Thing is, you know, big football clubs today don't actually make that much money, do they? I mean, the Glazer brothers, to some extent, they'd acquired a status symbol. You know, we own a football club. Who would you like to buy it off them?
I mean, the name that's getting rang around on social media, and I know a lot of United fans have mentioned Sir Jim Ratcliffe in the past, and obviously he's a Manchester United fan and a local lad to Manchester. We'd love him to be in charge, but this is, like I said, the biggest name in world football. So you imagine out there's going to be a hell of a lot of people interested in buying it.
Yeah, I mean, the trouble is, David, the fact of the matter is that football is a business, isn't it?
Well, it shouldn't be, should it? I mean, it started out as a working class sport, and people look at it as a business, and this is the frustration of fans. It's because it's a community, it's a lifeline. Football, and not just Manchester United, was where fans used to go to sort of relieve themselves from the stresses of week-to-week business. And I know that from the people that own football clubs maybe see it as a business, but to the people who go week in, week out to watch their team, it's anything but.
I know, but how are you going to pay people like Ronaldo £500,000 a week unless somebody with very deep pockets comes in to buy the club? I mean, you know, it's a long time ago that football was that close to its community.
I completely agree with you, but I mean, you're talking about Ronaldo and spending 500 grand a week on his wages. If I was in charge of the purse strings, he would never have got anywhere near that sort of money.
Do you think there should be a cap on players' wages?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's a private company, isn't it? Obviously, and a lot of it's run by sponsorship. But if you look at clubs, and dare I say it, like Manchester City, that have had a massive investment and are signing players that are of an ilk that will win them Premier League titles or go towards Champions League. So it's not that you can't have both things of having a business as well as a successful football club.
Maybe it's the poet in you, but you've admitted that when Ronaldo was re-signed, you actually were quite romantic and misty-eyed about it. You were really sort of seduced by the idea of him coming back to the club, weren't you?
I really was, and I don't think that I was alone at all when Ronaldo returned to Manchester United. It was quite romantic, and I think anyone who's seen the Michael Jordan documentary, The Last Dance, I think that we expected Ronaldo to come and take a club that was in the ashes and sort of take us back to our former glories. But the Ronaldo situation just typifies the Glazers' ownership. Manchester United, with that in his sort of pursuit of being the dominant force in football, shouldn't be signing players his age for them wages, because he's just one striker in the long line of strikers that have failed. If you look at Cavani, Ibrahimovic, okay, we won a trophy with him, but it was the wrong side of 30. Sanchez, another disaster that was on nearly 350 grand a week. Falcao again. There's just been no forward thinking from the Glazers in their ownership of Manchester United. And that's down to the fact that they never really wanted Manchester United to succeed on the football pitch. They were just interested in filling their own pockets.
I don't know them personally. I can't believe that they didn't want the club to succeed on the football pitch. But I take your point, and I know, David, that you represent, you know, an enormous number of Manchester United fans. Appreciate your time this morning. Good to talk to you. Manchester United's official poet.
We ought to, actually, before you go, we ought to commission you to write a poem for us. I can't offer to pay you anything, about the Glazers and about Ronaldo. Do you think you could knock something off?
I'm glad you give me like 30 seconds there, Richard, to come up with something. Let me see. The Glazers came from another land and built an empire and returned an empire to a grain of sand. I don't know.
There we go. It's not bad. It's not bad for nothing, David Scott.
Good, mate.
Thank you very much indeed.